This is bad. We're going to talk about banking news. We've got a story about Citigroup employees on edge as they're getting laid off. They don't even know who's getting laid off, but there are a lot of people being laid off at Citigroup. Why? Because the banks are in trouble. JPMorgan Chase just lost a customer's $236,000 that was sitting in their bank account, and then they cut them off from access. We're going to talk about that as well. But in a world where everything is awesome, where, Bidenomics is reigning supreme, that's sarcasm, please pick that one up. Hey, Sea-Dog. I think that it's very important that we realize where we are at. And then we're going to talk about being defensive, things that you can do to be defensive as the banking system is collapsing. I know it sounds crazy. When I started the first channel, the Economic Ninja, and then moved over to this one, and thank you to everyone that hits the subscribe button up here. This one's been blowing up. Thank you. I want you to understand that I showed you, I'm going to bring you through what a crash looks like. It's a multi-year process. And for those of you that have been following me for the last 3 years, you have seen that process. I would explain things in specific time periods and say, we can't start talking about this yet because it'll cause people to dive into certain asset classes they don't want to dive into. We have seen gold move up since this channel started, silver moving up, crypto moving up. We have had some really neat gains, some wins, but then there's a lot of warnings that I brought. And I brought the warnings, the banking crash, not this last November, but the November before that. I even said when it was going to start, and it did start exactly when I said it was. Then other banks started to crash, and we are witnessing something right now. The FDIC is holding on to CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities, and they're not in the business of holding these securities. But why the public is so unaware is because they're not telling you. It's because they can't sell them. None of the banks want them. And when they do sell them, as of just recently, they sold a tranche of these commercial mortgage-backed securities. They sold them for 65 cents on the dollar. Thus now pricing what all of the other non-performing CMBSs are doing in the banking system. The banking system is crashing. The Federal Reserve is putting so much money into the banks right now to produce and provide liquidity. And most people have no concept while the stock market rises. That's all they watch. That's all they care about. That's all they think about is how much is their pension worth? How much is their 401k worth? Well, there is about to be, and nobody knows when, but there will be a day or week or month where you start to see things trend down, things change, things shift, and then that snowball is going to come getting bigger and bigger and is going to smash into the ski lodge. So let's talk about these two news stories. First one, we're going to go over Citigroup employees, and then stick around for the JPMorgan one. That one's going to be crazy. Citigroup employees are on edge over layoffs, told that they can work remotely until the new year. It says here, Citigroup told most of its employees that they can work remotely the final 2 weeks of December, CNBC has learned. Workers can log in remotely from anywhere in the country of employment from Monday to December 29th, a Friday, making this week the last in-person experience this year for many staffers, according to people with knowledge of the situation. My heart goes out to the people. Let me know down below if you're one of the people at Citigroup that are facing layoffs. The policy applies to hybrid workers, which make up the majority of the bank's 240,000 employees, said the people who declined to be identified, speaking about personnel. Everybody's afraid that they can get laid off at this point. Unlike last year, when the perk was introduced, employees are on edge over CEO Jane Fraser's sweeping corporate reorganization, and some express concern over whether their jobs will still exist next year. Remember, the government's telling you everything is fine. Everything is not fine. Banks across the nation are laying off people in droves. They did this right before Lehman Brothers shut down. Remember? Because right before that, 6 months prior to that, or about 5 months, Bear Stearns closed their doors. An institution that had been around for decades and decades and decades. Says the project, known internally by its code name Bora Bora. Absolutely insanity. Let me do this real quick. has already resulted in executive departures and the shuttering of the firm's municipal bond business. Citigroup will disclose severance expenses tied to the project in January and again in April, the bank has said. Do you remember we just did a story about JPMorgan Chase Bank and how they are now concerned and complaining about the sheer magnitude of the severance packages that they are having to deal with because of the amount of layoffs they've done for cost-cutting measures. Yet right now, the bank stocks are exploding. But I want you to understand this. They're exploding higher because speculators are moving in, buying these bank stocks because they're going to be reporting less wages. But I want anyone that's to think about this. I'm not saying sell your bank stocks right now. What I'm saying, think about the fundamentals. You are betting that a bank is going to be able to have higher profit margins because they have less employees, but you have to understand the reason why they're laying people off is because they have less business. That is the truth. That is the reality. Citigroup will disclose severance expenses tied to the project in January and again in April, the bank has said. They're trying to prepare you that there's about to be massive costs associated with these layoffs. This past year has been one of the most significant changes across the firm. And as we approach the end of 2023, we look forward to this special time of year. Citigroup Human Resources Chief said last week in a staff memo announcing the remote policy. Isn't that nice? This is a special time of year. You're all about to get fired. That's what they're talking about. She says, we hope that you enjoy a break from commuting while continuing to stay focused on closing out the year, the HR chief said. Pretty much most of the people that are being told they don't have to come into work are also going to be the ones that are told they're being fired. And it's a nice way of being able to get them out of the office so it doesn't get a little awkward. Think about it. Can you imagine having to walk in to your office and go, 50% of you are fired? It's going to get awkward real quick. It's going to be really awkward. Let's move on to the next story. And this is about JPMorgan Chase. And this is why you need to be very vigilant and diligent in taking care of your money right now, because this can happen to you. This is out of the US Sun. At a loss, boom, 0-0. Chase Bank user rages after 236,000 suddenly vanishes from savings. Then he lost account access. It says an Illinois man saw nearly $250,000 allegedly wiped from his bank account without any warning or answers. You know, the one thing I would really like to know, but they're never going to say in the story, is what was this person's net worth and how much of that was in cash, and was it all in this bank account, or does he have his net worth spread over multiple banks? I ask it because most of the time when you see people that have large sums of cash in here, it usually comes down to the fact that they sold a large asset. Mostly it's a home. They sell a home, and I know a handful of people that have sold their homes and they have all of the money in their bank, one bank account. And that is definitely a no-no, okay? You need to split this up, spread this out. It says Miles from Chicago has claimed that Chase Bank refused to provide any answers to access to accounts until local media got involved. In March of 2021, this has been going on for a while, Miles claimed to WCBS TV that the Chase Bank account was wiped of more than $236,000. He said, I opened my bank account, boom, 0-0, he told the outlet, asking them to conceal his identity. Screenshots of Miles' account obtained by WCBS TV allegedly revealed that on March 2nd, 2021, there were 2 suspicious transactions from his account. First titled the balance transfer debt, that was in on the ledger. It says balance transfer debt was for $200,662, while the second called manual DB BRK 302 was for $35,000. Upon making the alleged discovery, the Chicagoan visited a local Chase branch to make a report. The branch manager at Chase was shocked. She goes, "This is more than my condo," Miles said. Despite informing the bank of the alleged suspicious activity, Miles claimed they did little to help. He alleged he experienced communication blackouts from the popular bank, going as far as to claim that the company blocked his access to his bank accounts. Let me say that this is, I believe, happening all around the country, and there are so few people. And if this has happened to you recently, please reach out and let me know, because I'd love to tell your story. Because in this case, here this poor man loses $236,000. It's wiped out of his account. The bank doesn't want to help. They don't even want to deal with him. They don't want to talk to him. He has to go to the press. And even at that point, the press that he went to gets very little views. You know, I want to tell these stories and expose these banks because they just shut you down. I mean, I myself have had problems, and my wife have had problems trying to get money that was taken from us. And it's like they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to deal with you. Nobody wants to be that person to deal with you. And it's like you need to swing a big bat. And the big bat right now happens to be social media. The other day I did a video of somebody getting robbed from scammers down below, and I've changed up how I do everything. I'll never ask you for money. I mean, we have YouTubers that actually straight up ask you for money. That's dangerous. Not only because you're listening to them for financial help or you know, to hear their story. They talk about finance like they know it all, but then they have, oh, please donate to my PayPal. I thought you're supposed to be some world-renowned stock trader, or I thought you were supposed to be some international businessman. But yet you have a please donate me to PayPal? Heck with that. But you know how dangerous that is? Because what happens is you already post that all over. Hey, please donate to me. I'm world renowned, but not that world renowned. And then all of a sudden it's easier for those scammers to get in, and people believe that it's you, and then they give you money. This is not a joke. But in that video I put out, that was on the Economic Ninja channel. Everybody I put, who has robbed you before? What kind of scams have robbed you? And people just, it's insane how much money people have lost. And this is why, and I want to tell you now how to protect yourself. You have to have your money in separate banks, because this could happen to you. What's the percentage of likelihood? It's probably pretty low. But even then, we're talking about a full-blown banking collapse. And we're talking about a law called the bail-in laws that have been made legal throughout the banking systems around the world. If you don't know what a bail-in is, I want you to go and Google it. But really quick, I'm going to tell you, instead of a bailout, the next time the banks crash, what they did is they said, instead of the government bailing them in or bailing out the banks and giving them money to bail them out, they're going to be able to legally reach into every depositor's account and make them whole with a certain percentage of your money. And then they're going to give you worthless bank stock. It will be worthless because they're insolvent. That's what we're talking today. We started this story. Citigroup is laying off thousands and thousands of people. JPMorgan just finished laying off tons and tons of people. The banking system is collapsing right now. If you think it's not true, then go smoke some hopium and keep living your life. Let the back door smack you in the butt, because people like me and people like who out here is going to buy the assets from those people that are so blind to the fact that this is what a crash looks like. This is why crash happens, because very few people understand and see the cycles. And then the rest of them that mock the ones that see it, the visionaries ahead of time, they go, oh, the clock's broken twice each day. Yeah, cool. I'm that broken clock, and I'm going to come buy your stuff. Let me know down below if you're one of those guys. Yeah, hashtag, I'm going to buy all your stuff. And we're trying to warn the world and try and wake as many people up, but we're held back by the mass media and by mass morons. The clock is broken twice a day. Who wants to be ready for the next time the broken clock is right? I'm going to put discount links to both the Real Estate Crash Course and the How to Start a Side Hustle course. If you want it, cool. If not, no worries. But my point being is that you need to prepare yourself somehow. And one way to prepare against a banking crash is to diversify your money. Not all banks are going to have problems. So diversify your money. That's the easiest thing I can say. That's what I've done. And it's worked well for me. With that being said, the economic, I mean, gosh darn, I do it every time. The Real Estate Ninja is out.